I mean, now we need to get to the point where we say, okay, but it is a reality. It is part of our lives and everything. It's probably going to get more intense later on.
There's that whole, Darwin theory, evolution, adapt or die. It's the ones that are most adaptable that are the most likely to succeed.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Bizzin Podcast. Andrea, thank you for being here. And I'm excited about this. We are living in a world full of AI and tech-driven things around us. So maybe just share on the time that you mentioned to me, you had a 3D design business. Maybe just touch on how did you get involved with that?
I was playing cricket and I thought it's going to come to an end at some point.
Yeah.
And let me future-proof a skill set.
Yeah.
And at that
Come on.
stage, the metaverse was coming out, and I was in the space, and I thought, you know what, this is all built around
Yeah.
3D design. So I'm in the right space. Let me double down on this and let me really learn. So after games, I'd go back to the hotel room, and instead of meeting the guys downstairs for a drink, I would, pull out my laptop and just start self-studying.
Sure.
On how to do 3D design. And much to my dismay, it was something that became quite a good business and something that I could fall back on. So I'm really grateful that I did that.
Yeah.
But the world's changed.
Yes.
And now AI has the ability to allow someone who decides to come into this space this morning to play around with a couple of things and almost get to the point where we are after 5 years of invested time in the skill set and in the software. If that's happened now, I can only imagine in 5 years of exponential growth and improvements in AI that is going to completely eradicate that field.
Sure.
Which is why I made the decision to slowly get out of that and go back into something tangible.
Yeah, that's hectic. Because, I mean, during that time, you said you had to pivot because of the AI. So, and now you're saying that you think in 5 years' time, AI is going to be developed even more. So, do you feel like it's a market that gets saturated? I mean, will AI ever get to a point where now it's just like, it's just another app that's out there. It's just another open AI. Do you feel it's going to get saturated, or do you feel like we need to acknowledge the fact that technology is here, AI is here, and adapt to make sure we incorporate that into our businesses?
I'm by no means an expert in it, so I don't really feel qualified to answer that. But from my own personal opinion, I don't think it's going to be noisy. I think it's going to just be so quickly incorporated into our lives that we don't even realize, that it has been. It's just going to be so convenient. It's just going to be so user friendly. And I think if you just look at, do you have an iPhone? If you just look at what your phone does in the morning, it knows you better than you know yourself. The things that have been incorporated and developed for you already that are just in place, it's not a high sort of learning path that you need to go on to be able to adopt it. You adopt it straight away. It's just so well designed, and I think AI will make everything in life that way. But one thing I think, there's so many people getting into it now, but if you look at and understand how it works, all the big players have invested tens of millions and billions of dollars and trillions of dollars into this space and computing power and having an advantage. So I think if you think that for a long period of time you're going to be able to come in and build an app that's going to sell for millions, I think that bubble's quickly going to burst. And granted, I mean, AI builds things quickly. So you can build things quickly, but at some stage everything will be built. And everything that you think you want to build, those things will just be able to adapt on its own. So difficult one. Difficult question to answer. That's just my gut feel and what I've been following and the trends that I've seen.
But I mean, I think it's reality, and I think we need to face that. Like a mutual friend of ours showed me a video when he was in Dubai that where the robots just speaks back to them as a person. I mean, and actually pronounces the name properly like a human person will be able to do it. So, I mean, now we need to get to the point where we say, okay, but it is a reality. It is part of the life, part of our lives and everything. It's probably going to get more intense later on. But as small businesses, you don't necessarily have the infrastructure from a financial perspective to afford all of this kind of stuff and to all of a sudden now tech proof your whole company. So you had a small business with the 3D design. You needed to decide to pivot from that. What does a normal small business do these days with the technology developing so much? What is the thing that sells that small business then?
So, in order to make these kind of decisions, you need to understand it. So I think the first thing that they need to be doing is trying to stay up to date and understanding what's happening, what are the trends, where are they leaning towards, what are the opportunities to sort of pivot. Incorporator, I mean, there's that whole, Darwin theory, evolution, adapt or die. Like you need to, it's the ones that are most adaptable that are the most likely to succeed. So if you can have that kind of mindset and understand that if you do not adapt, right, there is no future for you. So it's South Africans, we are really well known around the world for having a high work ethic and being very good entrepreneurs, because we've been through so many events that have forced us into entrepreneurship. And that's why we are so good at it. And I think the same thing applies here. It's just you will always need to adapt in your business. It's never changed. Definitely. It's just now you'll need to adapt faster. So I'd just say study it, understand it first, and then every industry is different. But I mean, to throw a spanner in the works here, people are saying, it's going backwards. Now the artisans and your tradesmen and stuff are now becoming a safer bet. But on the flip side, there's already robots that have been built to go and change valves and go and change pipes and be able to do those things. What they're capable of doing now is like unbelievable. But just understand it so that you understand where the risks are, and then you're at least equipped to make a more informed decision.
Definitely. What I see the last couple of weeks, I actually saw from a spiritual perspective, so many pastors preaching of how you should educate your children to stay away from that, because what it's busy doing is also drawing children into this, being on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram continuously. It opens up so much doors for the enemy to come and attack the things that they make themselves aware of, and so now we get to a point where we say, okay, yes, we should use it to improve our businesses. We should be innovative, but yet we should also protect our children and ensure that they are safe, and also actually protect ourselves, in terms of that, and not open ourselves. I mean, you scroll through Facebook and then this random weird apps or ads pops up, and it creates an unnecessary distraction then. So, I mean, how do we find a balance between those two then?
It's, again, such a great question and something I'll struggle to answer off the bat because I don't know. So I can tell you what we're doing. I mean, we've got 3 boys and I'm worried to death about that. Same thing. So it keeps me up at night. So the only thing is, again, coming back to the previous point, is my wife and I sit every evening and we research. What are the best forms of education for the kids? What is the best option to sort of counteract, wokeism and counteract. I mean, I'm getting into something different, a different topic altogether, but things that we don't fundamentally believe in. What are the ways do we implement to protect our kids against that? And again, it's just researching and understanding. And I think I've had my eyes opened up so much by just researching what other options there are available that I had no clue were there. But in terms of blanket terming AI, I think you need to dive a lot further into. There's also a lot of positives for it. Right? There's a lot of positives for understanding where your child's deficits are and what their learning journey could look like better for their interest in what they're doing. Where if you're relying on a human being to decide that, they don't have the capacity to take a class of 28 kids, give each one enough focus and attention. to sit the whole day and give everyone that. There's so much wasted time, and that's where kids, get into each other's space and start bullying and start, becoming someone you don't recognize at home.
Yeah.
But if you can minimize that, get what needs to be done as fast as possible and as effectively as possible, and then spend more time with your kids.
Exactly.
There's no replacement for spending time with your kids.
100%.
They learn from you.
Yeah.
More than what you say is what you do. And they replicate that. And you
100%.
build their confidence, you build their self-belief.
Definitely.
And who they end up becoming is fundamentally how you raise them to be.
100%. And I think that's such an important point that you are touching on, because I think we should, as people, make the difference in terms of that. I think we easily allow technology to take over, because it is easier now. Your baby is crying 10 minutes non-stop, and I mean, we've went through it, if you put on a TV show, because that helps, so we get to that point. People get frustrated with services not being delivered from, let's say, for instance, an accounting perspective, because the person they're trying to get a hold of is absent for 3 or 4 weeks. They don't get to them. So what do? They end up going to, okay, how can I do a bank recon myself? End up getting their own system, end up getting AI to generate CSVs, pull it into the bank. So they find solutions now which is driven by technology, because the person sitting there that needed to do the service, that needed to be the mother or the father, didn't do it the way they needed to do it. So we should actually look at ourselves as well and say, okay, how can we be better? How can we care more about our children, love them more? And I'm not saying that you don't love your children if you give them a phone. I'm just saying, how can we do it more? How can we be more intentional about that relationship in terms of that? So if we put it back then to cricket and Smash, how do you see technology, changing the way of sport in the future?
It's changing rapidly. It's changing the sport in the way that data is more accurate and more readily available.
Yeah.
So now we're not just judging based on performance. We're judging based on how quick your swing is.
Sure.
How big is your hitting power? How accurate have you been? Not in just this campaign's games, but in every training session that you've had for the last 5 years. So we're starting to pull data from your training when you're not even realizing that they're tracking you.
Yeah.
You're not realizing that they've tracked how fast every ball that you've bowled is, how many catches you've dropped, how you've timed the ball in each session on different wickets in different conditions against different bowlers.
Yeah.
So I think it's things that it's opened up a whole new line of opportunity for people to come into sports. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily associate the nerdy computer guy that wants to sit there, wants nothing to do with sport, but now they are, in high demand in sport, because, these guys are going to dictate anything to give an advantage in sport.
Sure.
If you can, it's crucial. And if you look at what these top teams are paying players and the money they're generating, if you're under so much pressure to perform, you've got to invest in things that will help you perform. So I think it's crucial in where it's going.
So you reckon if a robot runs up to you and bowls you a ball, will you hit him out of the park?
I definitely hope that I won't be facing any bowlers, maybe or any robots. As long as they stay, I think, as long as they stay out of sport and behind the scenes,
correct,
and they give players an opportunity to understand their games better and an opportunity to understand where they can improve and give them an advantage in summing up their own game, I think there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah, definitely.
But as soon as we start, playing people versus robots, I think that's where the sport goes to die.
Definitely. So I mean, just if you have to sum up your let's call it your philosophy about thriving in the future with technology around us, what would it be?
Understand it. Understand it. Where can you use it? I think we touched on what do we do with our kids. I think the first thing is, instead of worrying too much about how you should be parenting your kids in a way that you don't quite understand, in a world that we don't quite understand yet, I think worry first on how you parent yourself.
Yes.
And what you become, because the better you become in understanding what your environment is, the better you can give back to them.
Sure. That's amazing. Andrea, thank you so much for being here today. It was
Thanks
such
very
an
much.
honor. Guys, understand it, know technology, know what it's about, and incorporate it in your small business to become more effective and stay innovative. Thank you so much for joining another podcast of the Bizzin app. Go and like and follow our social media platforms, and we look forward to our next episode. Andrea, thank you so much.